Jazeera, Doha.
Human Rights Watch has published a report accusing the Ethiopian government of violently suppressing protesters in the Oromia region. The Oromo have been demonstrating for almost 4 months against proposed land reform. The government rejects the findings of the report. Well, protests began in November over plans to expand the boundaries of the capital Addis Ababa into the Oromia region. The Oromo were afraid their land would be taken, and authorities scrapped the urban development plan in January. But protests continued, and according to Human Rights Watch, security forces have shot randomly into crowds and tortured detainees. The Oromo are the largest ethnic group in the East African nation, estimated at 27 million people. Let's cross over to New York and speak to Leslie Lefko. She's the Deputy Director of Human Rights Watch African Division. So, Leslie, then you must have taken part in the publication of this report that Human Rights Watch has put out. Now, the Ethiopian government says the situation in Oromia is largely under control, but this is something you don't agree with?
That's right. We are hearing almost daily reports of ongoing protests, of ongoing killings and arrests. And also a lot of the people who've been arrested over the last 3 months remain in detention. So the problem is far from solved. It's far from over. And unfortunately, the Ethiopian government continues to, I think, restrict access to many of these areas for independent investigators and journalists.
Speaking of restricting access, though, Leslie, then how difficult does that make your job in being able to collect information and really assess the situation in Oromia?
It's extremely difficult. Doing this kind of research is a huge challenge. There have been people who have fled the area and successfully managed to get out of the region, and we've spoken to many, many of those people, victims themselves as well as eyewitnesses of these events. And we are able as well to collect some information from people on the ground. But it remains very challenging, and one of the indicators of that is, of course, the fact that the numbers are very unclear. We know that scores of people have been killed and hundreds, if not thousands, arrested. But those numbers still remain, obviously there are huge margins.
Leslie, the Ethiopian government did drop the plans for this proposed land reform in January. So why do you think that did not calm the situation in Oromia?
I think there are two reasons. I think the initial factors that triggered the protests, this plan, expansion of the capital, has been overtaken by the events. So people are very angry and frustrated about the killings and the arrests and the abuses that have been taking place over the last 3 months. And secondly, I think that there's a very serious level of distrust and lack of confidence in the government. So even though they did withdraw the plan, which is an important concession, we haven't seen other steps. We haven't seen an end to the violence. We haven't seen the release of those hundreds of people who've been detained unlawfully. We haven't seen the release of some of the Oromo political leadership who've been detained and are being prosecuted under the anti-terrorism law. I think all of those kinds of steps would be more important confidence-building measures that the government can take.
And how likely is it that these steps are actually taken?
Well, I really hope that the Ethiopian government reconsiders its approach, because clearly, the strategy of brutal and violent suppression is not working. And it's only resulting in, tragic loss of lives and bloodshed. And let's not forget that many of the people who've been shot and arrested are students. Many of them are even children under the age of 18. So this is really a tragedy. And I would sincerely hope that Ethiopia and its partners in the international community would revisit the strategy that is being deployed here.
All right, Leslie Lefko, we thank you very much for speaking to us from New York.